Good morning, folks. How are we all today? I hope we're all fine. Let me get Facebook on board, then we'll get this thing underway. I have to say, I'm enjoying the weather. I hope we all are. Getting a chance to get out and get some vitamin D. That's the wrong one. Here we go again. Right, now we're on the right one. Sorry about this, folks. Be with you in a second. Please bear with me. I say it's just a pain in the bloody bahookie. This carry on for Facebook. Having to go into Facebook every time and change the settings to public. It's just a pain in the bahookie. But we persevere. Right, that's Facebook on board. So let's have a wee look and see who's in this morning. George Ewan, Mr. E, Martin the Hippie, Indy Scott Bryan, and Kane. Dean, good morning, Dean. Hope you're keeping well. Thank you, Dean. I'll put that up. Hi, Eddie. Melanie, first of the Facebookers on board as usual. Followed by Doug. Good morning, Doug. Morning, Heather. Who else we got on? Not a bit. Morning, Alistair. Morning, George. Morning, Liebchen. Morning, the other Davy. Morning, Mark. Morning, Ed. Morning, Graham. I should have seen Heather in there somewhere as well. Right, yes, back down. Go up the page. Good morning, Fiona. Good morning, Stephen. Morning, Desiree. Numbers are climbing nicely. Give a couple more seconds, we'll get this underway. Fair bit of nonsense in the papers today, folks. Fair bit of nonsense. Some real outrageous nonsense, actually, in a couple of the rags. But we'll get to them. Good morning, Jeanette. Good morning, Ewan. Morning, Mark. Right, all day. A fair few on board now. So we'll get it underway. First up this morning, we'll get the Scotsman. We'll get it up. And the Scotsman goes on. Warning over water use after driest start to year since 1964. And it tells us that rainfall levels this year are 59% of average and that there is wildfire alert issued. Now, I always find this stuff interesting. So I always wonder if these alerts are self-fulfilling prophecies, if you know what I mean, folks. You know, sometimes I think if they didn't bother with these alerts, then people wouldn't be setting wildfires. But next up, we have the Knuckle Draggers rag, the Express. Let's see what nonsense it's got for us this morning. Scottish utilities giant on alert over rising risk of disruption to normal supplies. What warning over water use amid driest spell for 60 years. 1964, 2024. That's about right, 60 years. The maths is right, but it was quite dramatic the way the font and all that. Brilliant stuff. So apparently we're running short of water, people. There you go. We're running short of water. Shocker. If we're running short of water, they must be right in trouble in the southeast of England, that's for sure. But they're right. This has been a really dry spell. Right, next up, we have the other unionist shrill rag in Scotland, the Herald. What's the Herald got for us today? Oh, here we go again. Can you find the bloody thing? We'll be here somewhere, folks. Maybe not. Well, it appears I don't have it. So, what's the Herald got? Minister slammed over water watchdog's use of public cash. Holyrood Committee calls for review over a scrutiny failures of bodies spending. And basically, what it's telling us is that the watchdog needs a watchdog to watch over its spending. Apparently, SEPA has been misusing public money. But apparently there's been no officials overseeing SEPA spending. So the watchdog needs a watchdog. Mental. Apparently there are officials that are supposed to be watching the watchdogs. Right. Next up, we've got the Rancid. I don't put that one up anyway, and it's got exclusive. Home Wreckers, Labour peer Lord Haughey hits out that SNP's failed response to housing emergency. And then we're on the sub headlines at the bottom. Tycoon unveils plans to build 10,000 affordable homes in places for the homeless. I thought that's an interesting story. I wonder who the tycoon is. Well, it turns out the tycoon's not a tycoon at all, folks. First we're running out of oil, now we're running out of water. We're running out of patience. Well said, Mr. E. Turns out it's not a tycoon at all. It's a group called the Wheatley Group. It's a not-for-profit group, and it's Scotland's biggest social housing provider, out with local authorities and other housing associations, of course. Now, the Wheatley Group is, as I said, not-for-profit, and it's owned by its members. The tycoon they're talking about is a guy called Stephen Henderson, and he's the Wheatley Group's chief executive officer. And this story is for 2023, when the Wheatley Group announced that it intended to commission and get 10,000 social houses out there by 2026. So far, the Wheatley Group have managed to build 8,200 homes, and they have also refurbished 400 old properties into affordable rented housing. To say it's non-for-profit, where does it get its money? The local authorities and the Scottish Government's where it gets its money. They're all party the team that's building social housing and affordable homes, the Wheatley Group. Look them up, folks. I did. The story in the record is bollocks. It's not a tycoon. It's a not-for-profit enterprise which specialises in social housing, and it's owned by its members and its tenants. And it does allocate the majority of its social housing to those who'd be considered homeless, those in temporary accommodation, those living on the streets. And it is on track to provide 10,000 socially rented houses by 2026. It is on track. But it isn't a tycoon, folks. It's a not-for-profit enterprise that is run as a business, specialising in social housing. The headline, a lot of bollocks, as to Lord Haughey and his remarks on the SNP's record in government and providing housing. The SNP have directly funded the building of 20,904 social rented houses through local authorities and groups like the Wheatley Group. They have also overseen and invested a fair chunk in affordable homes for sale. In fact, the average amount of houses built in Scotland each year goes between 19 and sort of 25,000, depending on availability of land and pressure in the market. A fair chunk of that for the last 18 years has been financed by the SNP government to the tune of over 60,000 affordable homes. So 20,900 social rented housing built through councils, housing associations like the Wheatley Group, and also enabled another 60,000 houses to be put up at affordable prices in the market. That's a damn good record. And somebody ought to remind Haughey that for the first 8 years of the devolved settlement, Labour and then Labour Lib Dem were in power, and they built one single solitary home. One! I'll take the SNP's record in government out of this fucking shower of shite any day of the week. Any day of the week. They built one house. The SNP have put 20,904 into the rented market and 60,000 into the open market at affordable prices. I'll take their record out of the top of Labour's record any day of the week, and I'll take their record out of the top of Westminster's record any day of the week. Because remember, funding for us to build houses is tied to what England spends, and they haven't fucking spent at all. So it's a miracle that the Scottish Government's been able to produce 85,000 affordable homes, 20,904 in the social rented sector. And this bollocks in the record needs to be called out. Right, next up we have the Times. Let's put this one up. This one's pretty tame, I think. Yeah, I'll do the other end. Can you find the fucking thing? Here we go, the Times. Officials failed to stop misuse of public cash at water regulator. That's a better headline. As I say, there are officials meant to oversee the regulators, the watchdogs. in their spending, but apparently the officials failed in their duties. Sack them! And talks with up to 9 nations for asylum deal. Push for returns deals in the Balkans, folks. When we get to the I newspaper, that's got a more realistic take on what Starmer's doing in the Balkans. And Ukrainian 21 charged over arson linked to PM. I thought this was supposed to be a hostile state. Didn't know the Ukraine was hostile to us now. Well, I wonder what Starmer's done to upset this young man. That he's been terrorising Starmer's family and torching their property. I wonder what it is Starmer did to this young man to make him behave in such a fashion. Interesting. Thanks, John. Morning all from Santa Ponza, where the weather is 25 degrees, sitting on the beach with a San Miguel. Hey, tanning your truck driving face. Enjoy, mate. It's 17 here at the moment. Predicted highs 22. That's hot enough for Davy. Right. So that was the Times. I'll just find that and take it down. But hey, interesting. It's got officials failed to. That's because there is officials who are supposed to do that bloody job. Regulate the regulators. Watchdog for the watchdogs. Sack the watchdogs for the watchdogs and replace the officials. Right, so that was the Times. Next up this morning we have the Sun. I don't put that up. Cops probe weapon alert. Boy 7 in school knife attack bid. A boy at 7 with a knife at school. Terrorised kid brandishes his blade at fellow pupil. I dare say there's a wee bit more to this. I dare say there is a wee bit more to this. I wonder what it is these two young men have been doing to each other. But 7-year-old, knife. Wow. Wow. Right, what's the field goal for us today? This ought to be funny. In fact, it is funny. It's not just funny, it's outrageous. So it is. It is absolutely outrageous. We have to put this man up. Ministers accused of squandering taxpayers' money on defending their atrocious record. Take the SNP's record against Westminster any day. You just have to look at the social contract we have with our government compared to what the people in England have with their government. SNP's 100 million bill for spin doctors in middle of NHS crisis. You could not make this up, folks. You could not make this up. What is the actual story behind this headline? What are the SNP accused of? Well, over the last 3 years, the SNP have spent £4 million on 18 special advisors. They haven't spent 100 million, which is claimed in the Daily Field and in the MSM shite this morning. But every other outlet will tell you exactly what the story's about. The SNP over 3 years have spent £4 million on special advisors. Special advisors are no cheap. But 220 grand a year, that's a fair wad. But the average at Westminster, I think, is between 165 and 185,000 a year for a special advisor. And every single ministry's got special advisors. So why would it be any different here in Scotland? This is a nonsense story. And the figure's blown way out of proportion. But it is funny. Anybody's going to believe that you could actually spend could actually spend 100 million on spin doctors. You couldn't do that over 18 years. Unreal. And the spin doctors they're talking about are actually special advisors, folks. But as a cracking headline. Made me chuckle. Really made me chuckle this morning. What a fucking lot of nonsense. What a lot of nonsense. But it was funny. To be fair, it's funny. You know. It really is. 100 million in spin doctors. A wee evil, you daft paper. Sometimes they are way out there. So they are. Sometimes they are way out there. Oh, shut down the Wheatley PDF that I downloaded. I downloaded the PDF to find out all about the Wheatley group. As I say, that's how I know who the chief executive is, Stephen Henderson. Scotland's largest social housing group. We have an important role in supporting the Scottish Government and local authorities in tackling homelessness in the country. As I say, I downloaded their PDF. As we look into their history, it's quite an interesting not-for-profit company. But 100 million in spin doctors was funny as fuck. Couldn't help it. I just got to laugh at that. You've just got to laugh at that. Right, next up we have the Telegraph. Let's see if we get in more sensibly. We got in the Telegraph yesterday. God damn it, shut that fucking London. The Telegraph, here we go. Children to be taught to show some grit. Now, when I seen that one, I thought, well, what sort of grit are you going to get them to be taught? Are you going to have them at the gritty end of grit, at 80 grit? Are you going to have them at the woke end of grit, at 120, 1200 grit? What's this grit piss all about? Show a bit of grit. Byline, Ukrainians. Where are we? Byline. Security fear over China-Mauritius deal. Aye, well, you know, the Chagos Islands and the Diego Garcia air bases there. And apparently, PM could face defeat in benefit cuts revolt. No, he won't. How do you know that? Because if he thought he was going to face defeat or a big enough revolt, then he'd delay the vote, cancel the vote, or change direction. Because at this point in time in his premiership, a defeat in the Commons could bring his government down. So it could. A defeat in the Commons could bring his government down. So I don't think that's true. I don't think there will be a revolt. I really don't. As I say, if there was going to be a revolt, he wouldn't risk the vote. He would find a way of delaying it to coerce enough people into taking his side, or he'd change direction. Right, next up we'll get the National. Let's see what the Nationals vote for us today. Sometimes I wonder about this bloody paper. Anyway, one woman said I should be tarred and feathered, and this is Jacqueline McLaren on shocking online abuse she has suffered since becoming Glasgow's Lord Provost. If you're going to get into public life, shut down your social media until you're finished. Surge in military exports to Israel under Labour, and David and I were talking about that yesterday afternoon. 3 months of equipment sales higher than 3 years of Tory rule. So, as we explained, in the last quarter of last year, 2024, they shipped more arms to Israel than what they had in the previous 3 years, and to a higher value. They were helping Israel rearm to do what they're doing today in Gaza. And apparently Scots lose out on 15,000 per year as austerity keeps wages low. Yes, of course it does. Keep people desperate and they'll work for buttons. Sweathouse UK. We are becoming the third world. All part of our moral, intellectual and social decline. When the monkeys stop being smart enough to operate the machines and fill out the paperwork, then they work for peanuts. There you have it. Right, there you have it. Next up we have the eye, and the eye's good. The eye hits the nail on the head when it comes to what Starmer's doing in the Balkans. Apart from trying to out Farage and out Tory the Tories, we'll put the eye up. Let's say it's got an interesting headline today. UK scrambles for new migrant deal in Balkans after Albania snub. As you know, folks, Sir Kid Starver was out in Albania trying to strike a deal with them for a couple of deportation camps in Albania on behalf of the UK government. On behalf of the UK government. And the Albanians who have such a deal with the Italians, and that's where Starmer thought that he would get a deal with the Albanians because they've got a deal with the Italians, tell them to piss off. And now he's running around the Balkan nations asking each of their prime ministers if they would take people rejected for our asylum system. No matter where they come from, he wants to send them here. Or send them to the Balkans. I can see Starmer getting a lot of victory salutes thrown at him. Why would the people in the Balkans want to take the UK's rejected asylum seekers? Why? Why would they? If our system doesn't want them, what makes Starmer think the Balkans want them? If we don't want them? Truth is, of course, Maestas would welcome them. Maestas would put the effort in to have them integrate and contribute, as we do here in Scotland. We don't ghettoise people here. They live in their communities. They're part of our communities. They're part of us. Morning, John. So, why would they want to be running about the Balkans asking them to take people that the English don't want? Right, next up with The Guardian. Its headline's got nothing to do with us. But we'll put it up just for a giggle, eh? Thanks, John. Get that in a minute. Thames Water to be blocked from paying bonuses out of $3 billion loan. I don't know why they're wasting $3 billion. Giving it to this failed water entity. Just take the bloody entity under public ownership. It's failed. And while you're at it, get all the shareholders and rake the money back that they've taken out of Thames Water, because they didn't spend a fucking penny in it since they took it out for being a public body, the private entity. Zelensky sends team for talks in Istanbul. I guess Putin sends a team, but he's certainly not gone himself. And war victims, sick children in Gaza face grim lottery. No, they face certain annihilation, certain death, as the West sits on the sidelines, providing economic, military, and diplomatic support and cover to a rogue regime which is committing a genocide. That's the facts. And when we talk about moral decline, that's the moral decline. That's where we're at. My mouse has died. That's better. That's where we're at. We're at a spot where, in history, thank you, John. I'll leave that there for everybody to read, John. I think you'll find unionists will get a different take on it. Right, next up we have the Metro. What's the Metro got for us this morning? I didn't know that everybody had a chance to read it, John. Try to be the diplomat today, John. What's the Metro got for us today? $9.5 billion, staggering cost of benefit fraud and claim clangers. I thought that sounds a bit high. So I went and had a look. And according to the Department of Work and Pensions, fraud last year was at $7.4 billion in the system, or 2.6% of annual spend. And apparently that figure has doubled since COVID. It used to only be about 1.2% of annual spend that went on fraud and overpayments. But apparently that's doubled since COVID. Doubled since COVID. There's a lot of people are now apparently falsely on the sick because they didn't want to return to work. A lot of people are unemployed by choice, apparently. And as there is 11 million people, what they call economically inactive in the UK, but only 1.61 million of them are registered as unemployed and actively looking for work, allegedly. There's a fair chunk of people my age after COVID went, fuck it, I'm retiring. But it appears that a fair chunk of them at my age went, fuck it, and I'm retiring. We're committing benefit fraud. Naughty people. Stop it. Shocking behaviour. Absolutely shocking behaviour. You bloody boomers and Gen Xers taking advantage of the system that they've spent 40 years paying into. Nonsense. Thames Water CEO was defending his 200,000 bonus on LBC with a rather red-faced chap, Mike Graham. It's a hard knock life. Granny, Waddlebottom, I don't know if you're the best one to be throwing stones at glass houses. I can assure you that. And Whitcomb throwing stones at glass houses, I heard that. Yeah, brilliant. So apparently benefit fraud is up, folks, it doubled. I wonder how many of them, I wonder how many it's gone to people within the civil service, within the department. I wonder how much it's gone to people within the Department of Work and Pensions, rather than the naughty boomers and Gen Xers who have decided after 40 years of paying in they're going to take out. Right. That's it, Granny. Stop taking that money you paid in for years, you naughty buggers. Aye. Hey. Right, what's the stars got for us today? Well, the stars way out there today, folks. I mean, it is way out there today. The star is off its head today, or Fergie is anyway. ER talks via corgis. Her marriage, yap and glorious. Fergie's ghost claim. The headline was enough for me, folks. I didn't need to go any further than that. Fergie claims that the Queen's talking to her through the corgis. That's up to Fergie. Davies no interested in reading that story. He isn't. He's just not playing. So if you want to know about the old Queen talking to Fergie through the corgis, you're going to have to look it up for yourself, because it's no for Davy. Okay. But aye, Starmer runned about the Balkans desperate for a deal so he could out Farage and out Tory the Tories with the Rwanda nonsense. You couldn't make it up. And why would the people of the Balkans want to take people that the English people don't want to welcome? Send them up here and butt fucking out. We'll just take back our resources. We'll take back our independence. We'll take your small boat people. There you go, England. There's a fucking deal for you. We'll take the 1,000 a day that's arriving. We'll even send the buses down to collect them. Aye, welcome refugees. Right, that's it for this week, folks. Unless something comes up at the weekend and I want to just buzz on and have a fucking rant. But that's it for this week. There's been a fair amount of nonsense in the papers this week, but today they're answered, describing the CEO of the Wheatley Group as a tycoon. That's a new one. And the Daily Fail with 100 million quid on spin doctors. Wow. You know, anybody who's going to believe that nonsense needs their head looked at. The rest of you all know how to use a search engine. And don't forget Daily Blasé's Friday Frolics tonight, folks. It's always a good crack. I'll be listening to it at work as usual. And there is a chat thing on after 10 o'clock at night in Mad Monk's server. If he's there, he can drop a link into the comments. Anybody's welcome. And once you've been to the server, you can always get back. I'll probably pop in about midnight when I finish work. And I'll sit up and have a chat through the night for a couple of hours. So look after yourselves for the weekend. Look after each other for the weekend. Thanks very much today for your contributions to the Food Bank Fund. I'm still trying to get an organisation in Castlemilk or in the near of Castlemilk to give the final £250 award out this month. There's a couple in Tory Glen. There's a couple in the Rutherglen area, but one of them's Food Bank Thistle Trust. But I'd like to be a wee bit further up the hill. I'd like to get this into Castlemilk, so I'm waiting on Castlemilk Church Food Bank opening the day. It opens on a Friday. So I'll give them a call. But failing that, as I say, there's a couple others in the area. We'll get it out. Say thanks for your generosity again today, folks, for the Food Bank Fund. And they look after each other. I'll see you on Monday morning, 10 or 30. Don't be late, or your arse will be on the naughty step.